Joining me, as on every Wednesday, is National Senator Matt Canavan, the former Resources Minister. Should be, he should be in the front bench of the party. I don't understand what's going on with the opposition there. Matt Canavan, what did you make of this farcical use of Senate time today?
Well, as you said, Andrew, it was half an hour of your nation's parliament took up, and I just sat there thinking, how are we the victims right now? I don't think your nation's politicians are victimised. I don't think we should present ourselves as the victims while many Australians have to work two jobs to keep their head above water. Some Australians having to live out of a tent because there's not enough homes. We should be devoting the Senate's time to talking about, using the question time that this hijacked, to ask about these issues to make people's lives better. Instead, this week in the Senate, it's the second time the Greens have hijacked the Senate's time. The other day they walked out. That was a bit easier because went pretty well once they walked out of the Senate. But this time they just wasted our nation's time. The second thing I'd say here, Andrew, is Senator Faruqi does have form here. You put up one of her tweets. Another tweet she made a few years ago was to tell our nation's Prime Minister, Scott Morrison at the time, and I won't spell it all out, but to F off on Twitter. My view is if you're going to engage in that kind of vulgar language to elected officials, well, you shouldn't be too shocked when some of it might boomerang on yourself, so to speak. If you're going to dish it out like Senator Faruqi likes to do from time to time, you got to be able to take it. That's, to me, the basic rules here. So, it's a pretty robust chamber from time to time, and we should just get on with business.
But shouldn't we ask, I'm looking at that graphic you put out, that tweet of Faruqi's. If she tells Scott Morrison to F off, is she being racist and religiously discriminatory? Or doesn't it work that way? It only works.
Well, this is the problem with identity politics. You read whatever you want. You read whatever you want. Doesn't matter what you say. It matters about what the listener wants you, believes that you have said. And if we're going to establish these kinds of rules, we'll never have a proper society or communication. We just need to move on and get back to business. And I hope tomorrow we have a Greens stunt-free day in the Parliament. Let's all pray for that.
It just goes to show how easily the Greens use the words racist, in particular, and religious discrimination without any merit, just to shut someone down and smear them. To something, let us get on with the business of the nation. Murray Watt, Agriculture Minister in this Albanese government, today said farmers must do more to cut their emissions to save the planet. Here he is.
I'm always at pains to recognise the enormous efforts the agriculture sector has made already in reducing our national emissions, but the reality is we're going to need to do more. Our international markets and domestic consumers are expecting more and more sustainably produced food.
Matt Canavan, is the Minister right that farmers must now play their part in cutting emissions, and not just by carbon offsets? He said they've got to do things like cutting down cattle burps of methane.
Well, let's be very clear. If the government makes farmers do this, it will mean that you pay more for food in the shops. That's what it will mean. If we produce less food, if we engage or force higher costs on our farmers to produce that food, it will mean higher costs for everybody else. And then you have to wonder, well, why am I paying this higher cost? What's it going to deliver? Well, of course, if we got rid of all Australian farming, it's not going to make a jot of difference. Australia accounts for just 1% of the world's emissions, and our farmers account for about 15% of that 1%. And no other country, no other major country in the world is doing this to their nation's farmers. So why would our government be on the warpath against our farmers? It doesn't make any sense or add up here. And look, I think the other important thing here is hopefully this is finally a big news flash to the National Farmers Federation, who have been walking hand in hand with their enemies in the Greens down this path, thinking somehow that they're going to get rivers of gold from selling carbon offsets or what have you. The reality is that's not the case, because, as I say, under the carbon accounting rules, and I don't make these rules, I think they're absurd, but under the carbon accounting rules, farmers account for 15% of our nation's emissions. And they can't offset things twice. They can't grow trees on their farm, sell that to an aluminium smelter, and then also use those same trees to offset the methane coming from their own cattle. If the government enforces this, they won't have that plantation to sell. And as I say, the rest of us will be left with higher priced food. And and less food available for our whole country.
Matt Canavan, I'm actually out of time. If I could get a 5-second Matt Canavan zinger. Our Defence Forces worked for 6 months to fix one problem, renaming our fleet of drones from unmanned aircraft systems to the gender-neutral uncrewed aircraft systems. To be more woke, or not to upset the Chinese when we're firing it at them, I don't know. Don't you think that's a weird priority?
Well, lucky our Defence Department, of course, manages every major procurement so well, Andrew, that they've got lots of time to devote these other things. I mean, I'd be concerned about it if we couldn't, say, deliver a sub or couldn't deliver a ship on time and on budget. But they're doing such a bang-up job. They've got so much time to devote to this. Don't you love your taxes at work?
Oh, and they're supposedly in the killing business, but they're, we might have the wrong word for a drone. I mean, seriously, Matt Canavan, thank you so much for your time.